Our pilot for the day is Andrew Dutra. He'll be driving while I do the chatting today.
And it seems that we're having a couple of little audio issues. Is everything good now, guys? Can you hear us? Should we say that again? We're just going to say that again. That was. We were checking to see if you were awake. You are. Thumbs up. So again, I'm Kate Dissa with Community 2K, and I am joined by the always effervescent
Morgan Gray, and over on Star Controls, Andrew Dutra.
Hello.
And we're going to be playing through parts of the Bureau, XCOM Declassified. I'm really pumped about this. You and I have talked a lot about it, and all of you guys saw some coverage from E3, not only through 2K, but through several different media outlets, and it's definitely something that we know all of you have been looking forward to, more gameplay. So we're going to be showing you some gameplay that hasn't been seen before.
Yeah, fresh new stuff that we're showing up this morning. So we're going to get right to the action really quick. So let me just set the stage for everybody. What we're showing is a little early in the flow. You're playing as Agent William Carter. You've joined an organization, the Bureau, which as a result of, shocker, spoiler, alien invasion, will redub itself from the organization dedicated to protecting us against foreign threats, i.e. the Warsaw Pact and Soviet Russia, to an expanded version of foreign, which is anything not of this planet, and will rechristen itself XCOM. So you'll be there right the day XCOM as an organization is born. But that's enough of a setting. Let's get into the flow, and we'll jump right into the heart of the gameplay. I think that we'll be getting into combat not too far from now. So let's move on, Andrew.
So we're going to slide up into the corner so that we can kind of see what Agent Carter is up to here.
Getting small. So as we round the corner, here we are. So our battlefield in these games take place throughout a 1962 America, one that's been invaded by a marauding alien force, collectively called the Outsiders. Their specific name are the Zujari, and there is an example of one. It's us adding to the buffet of bad guys, which is coming from classic XCOM. So not only are there new faces in the form of the Zujari ground forces, but there's some familiar ones like those little sectoids over in the corner. Now Andrew's brought up our battle focus UI. Our central goal, our whole mission with the Bureau from a gameplay perspective was to find the essence of the top-down, turn-based, isometric tactical squad combat. It's a mouthful for early in the morning for me. Take that sort of God's eye perspective and give you the fantasy fulfillment of what it would be like to be a squad leader in the field with your men. But at the same time, not just becoming sort of run and gun or super action shooter, keeping all the tactical elements. So you can see that Andrew's using battle focus to position his troops throughout the battlefield. He's taking flanking positions, getting interlocking lanes of fire, and sort of working with his team to get success. And that's really the big goal here, which is you on your own, you're a good guy. Carter, he's no slouch. But it's really how smart you are and how well you can use your team, which is going to make the difference between success, failure, life, or death. Lining up the sectoids, and I'm going to do this weird thing where I'm going to yap a lot. But I guess that's why you guys are here, to hear a bit of me explain more about the game.
That's totally why I'm here.
Awesome. So you can see Andrew's using a sort of combination of tactical maneuvers, leapfrog tactics, slowly inching up and down the street here. We are in a little collegiate town in Georgia. I'm going to try to avoid a lot of story spoilers, but they might spill out, so I'm going to apologize to anyone. But you can see, he's really trying to use this coordinated strategy. And again, if you try to Rambo out into the middle of the street, it's not going to do you any good. It's really about Carter and his team using their weapons and the various powers that you get throughout the course of the game to maximum effect. Now, that doesn't mean that there's no room for action. Every now and then, you're going to have to do sort of a fast dodge roll, maybe some fisticuffs. We're trying to get this rounded out sort of multiple tempo experience where it's brains, it's bullets, it's lasers, it's a little bit of twitch, it's everything. If you're a classic sort of sci-fi genre fan, the way I like to describe it is it's the difference between in Aliens being Gorman in the APC, watching all the action on monitors, or Hicks in the field with the squad, with the platoon, where the bullets are flying and the creepy bad things are coming at you. Now, we'll talk a little bit about weapons. So obviously we start off with combo kill, yes. Good job. Andrew's rocking this morning. So you start the game with the basic weapons from the 1962 period. So you have a 45 pistol, M14, the sort of precursor to the M16, which becomes more prominent later on in the era, more going into the late 60s, going into the 70s. And over throughout the course of the game, you'll be able to get access to a host of cool alien technology that sort of upgrades XCOM's available tech. So bullets to lasers to plasma. If you're a genre fan, it's going to make sense to you because it's going to feel mighty familiar.
That feels a lot like XCOM. I'm used to seeing all those weapons become upgradable, and you don't just have everything at your fingertips at the moment. So it's really cool that it's in here too.
Yeah, I mean that's really our plan, is to feel that progression, because we think at the core, what we're our charter, our goal here is to find this unique perspective into the XCOM universe. So we're not attempting to replace or even reboot anything that's come before. There's the world of the classic XCOM, came out in '94, or Firaxis' excellent Enemy Unknown, which is I am the leader of the global XCOM effort sort of fantasy. Ours really is to take that fantasy, focus it down, and just be what's it like to be the battlefield commander. And so there's a lot of classic XCOM vibes and classic XCOM tropes that are within the Bureau as well, because we're playing in that universe. Now you can see not only are the aliens sort of here to defeat us, but they're actually xenoforming our world as well. So you can see sort of being, these Zujari behind the cover, the modeled sort of oily, disgusting, dirty tech. Mm-hmm. These guys are sort of a parallel, I guess, of our culture in the 60s. They're consumers. They're just they've consumed all from their planet. They don't recycle. They're not particularly PC. And they've gone marauding throughout the galaxy looking for new worlds to sort of harvest, take all the resources and move on. Along the way, they've actually been able to, sort of subjugate some of the more classic XCOM enemies. So they've brought the sectoids here in bondage to use as their war troops. It doesn't make the sectoids sympathetic. They're still jerks. I like to say it's a little bit like Lord of the Rings, right? There's the Uruk-hai and the goblins. They're all jerks, but there's a pecking order to them. Rank up. Good job, Agent Carter. Let's level up really quick, Andrew. Let's do it. So as you kill things in the different battlefields, you're going to get experience points for you and your squad. That's going to unlock new abilities for Carter and your agent. So at this point, Carter early in the game is just ranked up to level 2, which is going to give us a lift ability. This is a great power, which is going to help you pull guys out of cover, put them in the air to ship combo attacks.
What is this? This is really cool.
These are tutorial movies. So when you get new abilities, just to let you know really how they work, we give you a little bit of the government education video of the era. So it's a little bit stop, drop, and roll. It's a a little bit like, you know, blood flows right on the highway. It's all sort of educational and done, you know, very much in the spirit of that 60s vibe. So we're moving down the street, which is going to be cool. So, I mean, I can't overstress enough to the guys like the importance of team and tactics. Like, I think if you look at a screenshot of the Bureau and everything is static, you're just like, oh, look, it's a cover-based game with XCOM on it. Or you'll see a still shot of the battle focus radio come up, and you're like, oh, like mono radio, that looks familiar too. But really what we're trying to do is create a squad versus squad, effectively military sim, small unit tactics game. But we're just replacing Green Berets and Delta Force and Spetsnaz with XCOM operatives and aliens from beyond. So Andrew's effectively now down one agent. He's actually going to start to feel the pinch of having to do, you know, a lot of things, which normally he's used to having two guys with him. We have one guy trying to hack open this door, so he's down one agent. He's got to use smart plans for success. And it's that intelligence, which is actually key to the game too. Like, we really want players to assess the battlefield, figure out what resources they have available in terms of, well, you know, what Carter has, his powers and his abilities, the squad that he's chosen to bring with him. Parse what the enemies are there, parse what the battlefield can do for you in terms of flanking advantages, height advantages, which actually do give you bonuses when you play. They totally give you like stat mods for you to be able to go like, yeah, if I flank, I do more damage at this high ground, and they work against you. So to take all this input, put it into their brain, you know, create a plan or plans, and then see how well they do.
Now, I know you mentioned that he's down one agent, and I know it's just because he's kind of off doing something else.
Yep.
But permadeath is part of this game as well, because it's part of XCOM.
Absolutely.
How does permadeath play its role in the Bureau?
So there's no point in being a commander if your guys aren't actually counting on you. And if you fail to be a good leader, and if you fail to really use your brains, they're going to drop. Much like Andrew just dropped here. But he's going to run that agent out there and see if he can recover. You know, speaking of permadeath, there's player death. If an agent drops in the battlefield, Carter and/or your other squad may have a window of opportunity to basically resuscitate them, stabilize them, revive them. On different difficulty levels, this will mean different things. But ultimately, if you fail to revive a down agent, he will bleed out and die and be gone for good. Now, this is a significant loss, right? This is hours of your play time. This
Absolutely.
is customization. Now, no one agent can have all of the powers available to them. So this is really a big loss. Like, you've named this guy, you've weaned him, you've grown him, and now you're going to see his name on the memorial wall of the dead. So this the impact of permadeath is like, I just can't overstress. We call it consequence, and so in order for you to be a hero, to have a challenge, there has to be a consequence for bad decisions. The loss of agents without them ever returning is one of the big aspects of the game moving forward, and really enforces the concept of agent roster management as well, because it's not just I have my 2 agent buddies like, hey, double snipers, and I can beat the game. You need to have a bench of guys, all at appropriate level that you've been working with, bringing into the squad, out of the squad, sending on their own missions to level up, so that at no point are you caught in that awkward position of, I've been in the game for 7 hours, I just lost my 2 best agents, and there's a bunch of level 1s. Oh my.
Right.
It'd be impossible. Nothing's impossible. Gamers are amazing, as forums and game facts will attest, but it's very, very hard to beat the game with newbie agents. So, I recommend that everybody make sure that they're thinking team and not just, go, single hero.
And I know just a lot of everyone in the chat room has talked about permadeath and how they're excited to see it in the Bureau, because it is one of those things that makes XCOM, and this is very much an XCOM game. Like you said earlier, this isn't a reboot. This is really more of an origin story than anything else. So it's not a reinvention. It's looking at it from a brand new perspective, and a really exciting mode of gameplay that we haven't seen with the XCOM series before. What was it like, kind of building a new gameplay experience and an origin story for such a beloved franchise?
Well, it was long and difficult. I mean, just to be frank. So our big thing is, like, when we look at it, like, we think of like XCOM as like the brand. So we'll do like the Doctor Who analogy, right? So if like XCOM is Doctor Who, what we wanted to be was like the Torchwood. We're in the universe, we're playing, and we're attached to it. The biggest thing for us was to find the gameplay translation of going from turn-based isometric to getting down there with the guys, but still having the same amount of tactical control and keeping the same aspects of, it's more about your brains than your bullets or your brawn in this third-person space. And so that was very, very difficult. We had a lot of iterations about how much control, how little control, how much do tactics matter, how little do they matter. And ultimately, what we found was every time that we made the game more reliant on skillful play, like more reliant on having to use strong tactics and then extend and pull those throughout the course of the game, it just felt more XCOM. So a lot of people go, XCOM, that's a hard game. I don't think hard is the goal for any XCOM game. I think the franchise harkens back to a time in games where games didn't spoon feed you.
It's a complexity.
It's a complexity. It's sort of, again, like I like to say, it requires, demands, and rewards skillful play. So that as opposed to just like, level cutscene, and you're just going to be pulled through, basically button pressing your way through the game, hurrah, roll the credits, that you actually feel like a meatiness to the game. And that's one of the things that 2K Marin that's really important to us. In fact, we learned a lot through our work on Bio 2, in that we really like to build these games with combinatory like gameplay systems and game mechanics that put a tool chest of opportunities into the player's hand, and then step away and then let them put it together. Along the same time wrapped with some very interesting narratives that are telling a story that's a little more than just on the nose and then aliens invade. They have a little more depth. And so as you saw as we're walking through, we're trying to take advantage of aspects of our setting in the 60s, to have this rich America of the time. It's not an America of today. It's definitely an America of a bygone era. Give us the opportunity to deal with fun issues like social issues, gender equality, the racial tensions of the time. Because we figure we've gone and built all these fantasy worlds that are fabricated on aspects of reality. Reality itself is pretty cool, to give, to supplement the themes and moods of the period. So we're trying to put it all together. And again, that's like the 1-2 goal, which is like, let's tell this cool conspiratorial origin story of the XCOM organization, never been told before, that sort of ties into all the lore that's come before. And let's give you that perspective. Here we are in a resupply crate. Yeah.
Hey, chat, what color should we make his vest? Get back up there, Andrew.
Yeah, let's hear from everybody.
Let's go. What color would you like Carter's vest to be? I think he looks really nice in that lilac. Yeah. And we'll let them.
This is the feature, which was the biggest argument between many of us on the team and our art director.
Was the argument not enough colors?
The leadership of the art team, probably rightfully so if you take an aesthetic stance, was why would we let you make something that looks silly?
Because everyone wants pink.
That's, again,
everyone wants pink.
The resounding answer was because of fun.
He looks fantastic.
See, that's great. It's a good salmon. It's nice, manly salmon in the 60s for Will. I mean, Will's a dapper guy. He has the hat. He's got the vest. I take a period-appropriate approach, and I go all black Johnny Cash style until the savior comes back, as my man said, because that just feels very 60s for me. I put Johnny Cash in on the playlist, pipe it through, and then play some Bureau. But there's a lot of pink, and then, it's not just Carter that you can customize. Like, all your agents you can name. You can name them after yourself or your friends. A little creepy if they die, so I try to avoid that. You customize out which class. There's 4 classes: Commando, Engineer, Recon, and Support. Think of them like RPG classes, right? It's sort of like they fill those roles. You have your tank, you have your buffer, you have your area, your DPS, that sort of vibe. And you can customize each of them. In fact, you could make the entire pink squad if that was your vibe. And then I also found it very important when I name my agents to do things like Pinky Commando, and then then it comes up. Yeah, or Pinky and the Brain. So by default, you'll get random names associated by various people that have worked on the project, but I recommend that people put a little personality in these guys. They're going to be your crew. Hopefully, if they survive, that you're going to carry through the whole game.
It's up to you if they survive in the first place.
They're really counting on you. I mean, so video games, buddy AI, it's always a hard thing to do. Like, on their own, they're decently intelligent. They'll shoot targets, they'll defend themselves, they'll move around. But the gameplay is really reliant on you turning them from, okay individuals to a coordinated team. And really, again, everything is focused on this fantasy of, I am a squad leader in the action. My guys are relying on me. And if you think about, in proper military history, right? There are two teams, and it's, they all got the same level of technology, more or less, right? I mean, what does it come down to? It comes down to training and leadership, which would make the difference in any one conflict. And so we're trying to emulate that here.
That's one of the things I like most about the gameplay, is because a lot of times in these games where you have squad-based tactics, there are lots of different things that can be the deciding factor. It can be the environment, it can be that this enemy is just more powerful than you are. And in this game, that going in. The aliens have better tech. They have it, and so you are the element that's going to decide the battle, which is what I think is one of the many things that makes the Bureau a really unique experience, and it reminds me so much of XCOM. The entire time I'm playing it, I'm sitting there thinking, this is XCOM. I am what is deciding this battle.
Exactly. I mean, our hope is for the classic XCOM fan, like many of us, XCOM first came into my life on a demo disc on a gaming magazine in 1994.
Couple discs.
Couple discs. Mine was that 1.4 hard floppy. I was like, this thing is rad. that you know, it does feel very, very much at home. It feels like, you know, the classic, you know, formula, albeit in a new perspective. The other sort of folks that we're hoping that we find are the people who, you know, I'll just be honest, probably misguidedly think I don't like turn-based games, right? Because turn-based games are rad. But, you know, they were like, yeah, it's not my cup of tea, but I do like shooters, and this looks interesting. Look, this looks crunchy. Like, we find those people, we give them, you know, some great XCOM fundamentals. We make them fans of the franchise, as this being their doorway in, and then they're like, wow, this is great. Like, let me try more. Let me try different XCOM. So, I mean, there's a certain vibe of third-person shooter that we're going for, right? Like, you know, people have asked, like, well, who's the game for? Well, I'll be honest, like, it's probably not for everybody, because it does rely on sort of the brains and the tactics. So, some of our touchstones that, like, we played, I'm sure a lot of our, you know, our friends out there played, or things like, you know, the old school Rainbow Sixes that were a little more hardcore, early Ghost Recons. I mean, even Full Spectrum Warrior on what I wish I could call the Xbox One, but I can't do that anymore, so I'll just call it the first Xbox. They've made it tough for me. Like, these sort of, like, touchstone games that, although even though they're coming, you know, on consoles and PCs, and you can play them with a control pad, are verging a little more on the tactics and the cerebral aspects of combat, and a little less on the I'm going to run up and shoot your head off. Although there's always a time to run up and shoot someone's head off. So I believe, yes, Carter has a shotgun here. So.
Carter does have a shotgun. It is a close proximity weapon.
Yeah, I mean, look at that vest too. It's really nice. So we're in the ruined remains here of this university. I mean, the high level, again, trying to avoid spoilers. It's early in the war. We've been caught with our pants down. We're here to actually recover an XCOM operative. They're really not operatives. Like, I don't know if you've ever read or seen Andromeda Strain. But the vibe of the Bureau is there's a bunch of people that have been, they signed a list years ago for the government. Like, you know, if in a time of need, can we call you? And they're like, sure, we'll send a list. And they never,
we need you.
yeah, no one expected that phone to ring. Well, the phone rang. And so they're actually here to recover a scientist who's got research which is going to help them start to get, and not even a leg up, but just get their feet underneath them. And big muton and punch blood. There's our muton. So if the sectoids in our game have been subjugated and enslaved by the Zujari, the mutons are in it for the money. They're actually in our game sort of a mercenary race that has signed up for this operation. And so we're gonna have to use a good level of coordinated tactics. This is a cool fight, right? So we can talk just a little bit more about the enemy. So not only have we designed a lot of the game about like what are you gonna do with yourself and your squad, we have applied that same thing to the bad guys. So every enemy serves a sort of combat role or a combat vibe. You have your basic Zujari foot soldiers. They're the vanilla. They're the baseline. You know, this muton is like, you know, a big badass, you know, ground pounder. He gets up close. You're dead. They'll just punch you to death. They'll knock you out. So he's really about like getting you out of cover, forcing you to use coordinated tactics. You know, previously you'd seen that we had sort of the drones in the sky. We'll see them again. You know, the sectoids are little shock troops. And the idea is that they all form an ecosystem in these combat areas in which, you know, you as the player are forced into some difficult decisions. Like, you have to do this target assessment, like who's the bigger threat now at this juncture, at this situation? How do I prioritize these guys? How do I, you know, prioritize who my agents are going to think about? It's effectively like, you know, a combat puzzle, as it were, that the player, that we're throwing up to the player, and a puzzle that has multiple solutions. So it really makes for, I think, some unique gameplay, and it really makes each and every fight, you know, it's sort of significant. They become sort of a set piece moment because it's your plan that lets you succeed. So it's almost a micro story.
I just love how the pacing doesn't slow down, though. You know, because I've played different games where the combat is a puzzle, and this is one of the few examples I've seen where the pacing stays with you. Like, I don't feel like I'm in and out of the battle. Every part of it is part of the battle.
I mean, that's you know, again, the sort of the promise we're trying to fulfill was like, what would this experience be like if there was no pause, if there was no time to sort of scratch your chin and mull over the solution, and then by doing that emulate, you know, the Battlefield commander's experience. So we definitely always wanted to keep the tension up and the pressure up. Even in Battle Focus, you know, it's not frozen time. We time dilate, we slow down, but you can be killed within Battle Focus. You can actually see guys throwing grenades coming your way. In and out of Battle Focus, you know, you have obviously your own combat controls. You also have a host of what were called quick orders, where you can easily, oh, we've lost our hat. They took our hat.
Hat down.
Hat down. Oh, they're going to get it for that. They took our hat.
Get them.
Get your hat back. There we go. Put your hat back on. Yes.
Prioritize.
We don't lose the hat.
Ooh.
Yeah, I was going to say, as I was saying, like, even within, you know, the sort of Battle Focus, you have your own ground controls, quick orders, where you can be like, hey guys, go there, or attack these dudes really quick with like a D-pad control. We're trying to keep these various rhythms in this tempo, and none of which are like and now everything is mellow and low key. It's constantly trying to keep like pulling and stretching like your abilities. And even for us, like it's a cool thing is like you can play this game a lot. Like yesterday, Andrew, who's played this game for a long time. He was kind of playing poorly. I'm just gonna call him out. And, he wasn't obeying the tenants. He was getting sloppy. He wasn't using his brain. He was getting.
He can hear you.
I know.
Right
He's
there.
nodding. I'm not insulting. I'm just sorry, Andrew. I have died in this game in front of the whole team, right? So I've been embarrassed. The cool thing is like.
But that's part of it. I mean,
you have to be on it, right? It's like Tetris, right? Like if you're playing Tetris and you're being a little sloppy, you end up losing, right? And that's the kind of combat experience we're trying to create here. Is
permadeath Tetris.
Permadeath Tetris.
Right.
It shocks you. It's just that experience that like asks you to be on the ball, requires it, and keeps you on.
Keep looking for Weir.
Oh, the hallowed halls of education. Ooh. Oh, okay. So we've moved through some fights. We're here inside the college trying to basically rendezvous with the good doctor, the good professor. When we come upon
Dr. Weir?
his assistant, Mr. Lawrence. And this is cool because, as you saw in the bank, and now you see here, we do have these sort of narrative conversations with various characters throughout the course of the game. Like you'll be talking with main characters back at XCOM HQ, people you meet out in the field. We don't do any morality play. There's no good Carter or bad Carter. Like he's just Carter. Though you do get to sort of pick the kind of Carter you want to be in terms of how you interact with folks. And there's a lot of these conversations that either will have a direct impact on what will happen within the same level, and then key points, obviously, within the story that will have a direct impact on how the game ends for you. It will actually be, a little bit more unique and based on some of your key decisions that you've made or failed to make throughout these bigger narrative events.
And I think after this conversation, we're going to take a small break just to grab some questions from the chat room, so keep asking. But while the conversation is going on, something that I like is even though the battle never mellows, the pressure is always on, we do have these scenes where you're able to become attached to this environment, attached to this time period, attached to these characters. And I just think it's really interesting that there's kind of this cadence to it where battle is battle, but you still have that chance to kind of explore the world that you're fighting for.
Well, like the sort of structure that we're shooting for is less like summer blockbuster movie and more, I guess, like miniseries is the vibe for how the narrative and even the pacing throughout the levels we wanted to feel. So a lot of inspiration from like a period appropriate miniseries from the Earth to the Moon or Band of Brothers. We wanted to get the sense of a campaign, and we figured if the volume's always at 11, you sort of lose that sense of progression because it's just like, wow. So the ebbs and flows, both in combat and just in how the narrative and everything flows is really important to us, and we actually spent a lot of time trying to find that vibe. We also felt that kind of presentation technique was a little more period appropriate, right? Like they took their time in the 60s. This is when we had awesome stuff from Hitchcock and that kind of vibe, like North by Northwest. It was a specific sensibility that was of the era and that we're also trying to emulate within the Bureau.
Absolutely.
All right.
Well, we're going to take a short break and show you a very cool trailer for the game. I'm going to take a look at your questions, and when we come right back, we'll ask some questions of Morgan.
Sounds good.
Ray spotted. Enemy spotted. Get ready, they're near. Over there, on the move. Mind that area. Contact! We're undeployed! Just holding that area. Here. On the move! It's mine! On the move!